Consultant Forensic Psychiatrist. I assess mentally disordered offenders for a living so that you don't have to. Okay, so I'm finally reviewing this music video called Hiren. Months ago, quite a few of my viewers wrote in to ask me to review this. Apologies it's taken so long. I know nothing about this. I know it's about mental health, or I assume it's about mental health. And I've never heard of this musician. And I've never seen this video, so this is my literal first-hand reaction. So let's get straight into it. Right, so first reactions, I'm not really feeling the guy dressed up as a pig covered in blood and he's in a hospital gown. It just seems a bit, if it's a depiction of mental illness and if he's supposed to be a psychiatric patient, I guess my first thought is that it's a bit sensationalist, a bit kind of lurid. I'll give it a chance though, that's just my first impression. Plus, the guy looks a lot like, Tommy from Peaky Blinders, Cillian Murphy's character. Looks like a younger version of him. Intro's a bit long as well. I'd like it, it's a 9-minute plus video, so I would have thought he wanted to have get everybody's attention immediately, but anyway, those are just my immediate reactions. Let's give it more of a chance. Really long intro. I hope it's not just guitar music the entire way through. Can't be, can it? Again, I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm not loving it so far. The intro's a bit too long. This kind of, this bird kind of noise is slightly annoying, but it is very popular, and I'm sure I'm going to get more from it. Just, again, it's not impressed me massively so far.
Hi there, man. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down, you know that. Deep down, you know I'm always in periphery. Ran on your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me. Hi, bro.
Oh.
I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still.
All right, so my thoughts now are this dude can actually rap. Like, I don't know what kind of music I assumed it to be with the guitar. I didn't think he was actually going to rap at all, but he can actually rap. Like, he's got rhythm and flow. He's not just like a musician who's trying to rap and kind of embarrassing himself like Ed Sheeran or Robbie Williams. The other thing is I didn't know he'd be English. I thought for some reason I just assumed it would be American or Japanese. I'm not sure why, but yeah, dude can rap. So I'm getting that there's maybe a split personality thing going on. Let's hear a bit more.
Been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately, and I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill. Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times, your civilian mind is so perfect, they're always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice. All your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah, mate. This time is different, man. Trust me.
So yeah, to me, if I've interpreted it correctly, it's kind of like an internal dialogue. There's like this optimism and this pessimism, like a devil and an angel on his shoulder. And I guess the devil is, as you'd expect, doing the tropes, like the doctors aren't trying to help you, you need just to take more pills, blah, 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 which I think is quite an easy target. So I think psychiatrists or doctors are an easy target. So it's quite a simple kind of trope to be anti-establishment, and the doctors are just there to try and over-medicate you, blah, blah, blah. So usually I might be slightly offended by that, but I think this is actually quite unique because he's looking at it from two perspectives, so it makes sense that the devil is saying those kind of things. So yes, I'm definitely intrigued. I think it's quite an original concept. So it's like, from what I can tell, a psychiatric patient that has the pessimism and the optimism and the good side and the bad side on him. So I don't think I've ever heard anything like this before. So yeah, I want to hear more.
Things might be falling in place, and my music's been kind of doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great, and when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help. You think that you can amputate me, I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one. Split in two, that makes one, so you see. You gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is tight, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Wow, your Grammys ran nowhere. Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connected, and the people who find it respect it. And for me, that's enough.
So yeah, so this is kind of two different concepts or two different dialogues that are going wrong, both with optimism and pessimism. So on one hand, he's kind of doubting himself as a musician, as a talented artist. I actually think he's quite talented of what I've seen so far. And so this voice is kind of doubting that he's ever going to make it. But also in the background, there's about him recovering from some sort of undisclosed mental illness. So to me, it seems to be a depiction of schizophrenia. And I really want to make the point that a very common misconception is that schizophrenia is split personalities. Is not. So it's not having like two entities and you switch between the two, which is kind of what I think Ren is trying to do here. Schizophrenia is more having like hearing voices or having paranoid delusional beliefs. So I think this is more akin to split personalities, but there's an element of schizophrenia in there as well. And yeah, I suppose it's actually done in quite a clever manner, isn't it, to see both of these things, both of these entities happening at the same time.
Cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in. Man, you sound so pretentious. Ran, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself. Trust me. You should be so lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it. Man, it's not like that. Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat. No, it's not, man, you're wrong. When I write, I belong. Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with the subconscious, Eminem did it. Played on guitar, Plan B did it. Man,
Actually, I was thinking that this even though this actual concept of the kind of mental illness and the doubt is something I've not heard before, it did remind me very much of Stan. So obviously Eminem having 3 verses as another entity that's a fan of himself. It's not the same, but there are overlaps. Don't know about Plan B. I've never listened to Plan B before. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely continue to want to hear more.
Original, you criminal, rip-off artist, the pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material. Ran, mate, we've heard it all before. She sells seashells on the seashore. Fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this.
This guy can actually rhyme. Like I realise now that he's playing guitar like live. This is not just sort of this is not like a sound recording over a background track. He's actually playing the whole thing live. You can tell, which is really actually very impressive. So he's obviously talented. He can rhyme. He's got like multi-syllabic, complicated rhymes going on. He's changing his cadence. He's putting in a bit of comedy. He's kind of changing it up. I think a lot of rappers, especially new rappers, are a bit dull and a bit kind of flat and monotone. This dude's actually very good, I have to say.
I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius, and I will be great, and I will make waves, and I'll shake up the whole world beneath it. That's right, speak your truth, your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to actually hear you say it instead of downplay it. Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus. Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren.
I think it's quite interesting because it's a fine line, I think, between being a bit kind of cheesy and being over cynical when you talk about what your music is for. And Ren has done a perfect job of teasing both of those angles out. So he can be a little bit pretentious if he wants to be about what his music means to people and to himself, because he's kind of taking the piss out of himself with the devil on his voice. So it's kind of, to me, it reminds me of like battle rappers who know that they've got some sort of weakness, like they're fat or they're posh, and they play on that themselves to kind of take away the ammunition from their opponent. So it kind of feels like he's doing this to us. And again, I've never heard anything like this. So yeah, it is. I'm impressed.
Me then, let's fucking have you, Ren. I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to down my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose you. Die. Yeah, I call the shots and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside. Newsflash. I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mephistopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender when standing in front of my soul.
Yeah, so what's interesting to me as a psychiatrist is that there's quite a few symptoms coming out. I mean, he mentioned, I think they used the word God complex before. So you've got grandiose delusions, which is very typical in a psychotic illness like schizophrenia. So very briefly, schizophrenia is a tendency towards psychosis. Psychosis, lots of different symptoms, but the two main ones are hallucinations, so hearing voices. And I think he might actually be having auditory hallucinations. That could be like why he's turning around speaking to a different thing. Or delusions, and they tend to be either grandiose or paranoid. And I think we've seen all of that here. Grandiose delusions about, you know, how he's so sort of this powerful entity, but also sort of paranoid about saying that he has to kill him if he wants to kill himself. And the other thing, I don't think this is the angle that the musician's taking, but I still think it's important to say, is that self-harm suicide is a huge issue with schizophrenia. So about 10% of people with schizophrenia end up taking their own lives. So just a really sort of important point that he's highlighting as a kind of side note. The other thing I like about this is that, again, I kind of mentioned this before, he's changing his cadence. So it's not just one 9-minute rap or, you know, take away the intro, 8-minute rap. He's not got choruses as far as I can tell, but he's kind of changing it up a little bit, stopping playing his guitar. Just a bit of variety, because for something this long you need to change it up. I also just noticed that there's a lot going on in the background, the lights flashing. I don't think that was happening the whole time, at least not both lights. So I think it's quite clever in the way that he's even though the set is kind of very monotone and dark and dingy intentionally, there's still a bit of variety and a bit of chaos coming out through the lights. So I like that. It's clever.
My name is stitched to your lips, so you see I don't bow to the will of a mortal. Fever the normal, you wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of ends. I am you, you are me, I am you, friend. Taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm. I was made to be tested and twisted.
So to me, this feels like a separate verse that's probably set a little bit in the future. So some time has passed, and the patient Ren is kind of trying to explain to the devil, the psychotic entity of Ren, that he's trying to distance himself and he's trying to recover. One thing that was going through my mind right now is that I'm genuinely intrigued, and I'm probably going to Google this after I've made this video, about the actual musician himself. If you guys might know more than me, whether he's actually suffered from mental illness. I'm not saying, I suppose what I'm thinking is that you don't want people to appropriate mental illness just because it's a cool thing to pretend to have, because it's, I don't know, it's unique and it shows that you're a tortured musician, blah, blah. I think that's, I'm not saying he's doing that, but if people do that in general, I think that's a little bit disrespectful to people who actually do suffer from serious mental illness. And I've got to be honest, I didn't like this video in the first sort of 30 seconds because I thought it was a bit gratuitous. Again, as I said, the pig, the blood, him dressed up as he is, I thought it might be a little bit disrespectful towards actual sufferers of mental illness. I think I've changed my position because his lyrics are actually pretty deep and he's portrayed something in a unique way. So I don't think that anymore. But I want to know, is this his lived experience or is it an artistic interpretation? It's fine for it to be an artistic interpretation, I guess. But I just want to know if he is actually talking about things that he's literally been through in his life, or whether he is trying, like a documentary maker might, to kind of shed light on other people that he might know that have had this experience. He might talk about it later, I don't know. But yeah, if you know, let me know in the comments.
Made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's a part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or
So I really like this verse again because I said this before. Because it's such a long song, you need a bit of variety. You need something to change. A bit like going back to Stan. The reason that I think that's a work of genius is because not just 3 verses that are the same. Each verse there's a progression where Stan himself is becoming sort of more depraved and more unhinged. And I think this is actually happening here with Ren. This is the first time I've heard it, so I might need to go back. But I think he's now the patient Ren, the victim Ren, the vulnerable Ren is now standing up to the devil psychotic entity, saying, fighting back rather than just sort of being meek, which in itself is quite clever. It's like showing a depiction of recovery from mental illness. The other thing is that dude can sing. Like, I didn't know he was a singer. I just assumed he was a rapper once he started rapping, but he's actually got a decent voice. It reminds me of something. Is it Arctic Monkeys? I think it's Arctic Monkeys. He's got very that kind of sound to his voice. But yeah, good. This is kind of like a chorus-ish, I guess. I don't know if I'm being a bit hypocritical here, but actually this same kind of bird tweet singing that annoyed me at the very beginning of the song, I'm actually feeling it now. And I think that's because I'm actually into the song now, whereas I wasn't for the first 20, 30 seconds. It sounds better, but I can't make sense because I think it's exactly the same. But I'm just feeling it now. I'm getting the vibe. So there's still more than a minute and a half left. He's obviously finished with his rapping.
When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims, and there was...
Yeah, okay, so I think this is his life story, and he has suffered with psychosis, so this entire song is actually a depiction of his experience, which makes it, to me, a lot more real. As I said, I don't think that only people with that experience can make this kind of music as long as it's done tastefully, but it kind of means a bit more, I think, to the average person, to me at least, if he's been through these experiences. So yeah, I'm giving a lot of credit to this guy now. What is it he said? Yeah, there's no winners, there's only victims. I like that phrase because I guess what he's saying is at the beginning of the song there was like this internal battle, and he's saying that it's not really a battle, it's just kind of trying to live with everything and balance it out, I think is what he's trying to say.
It wasn't David versus Goliath, it was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light.
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself have not suffered from psychosis, but I've treated hundreds of patients with schizophrenia, and that's exactly right. So we call it remission and relapse. So you never fully recover if you have something like schizophrenia, which is a chronic disease, but you go through phases of being better and then phases of getting worse. And sometimes it happens randomly. Sometimes there's triggers like not taking medication, intense stress, drug and alcohol use is a huge one. So yeah, I like that term pendulum. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody describe it like that, but it feels a lot more real and a lot less formal than relapses and remissions. So I can relate to exactly what he's saying. I've heard many people say it, but just in different terms.
And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easy.
Yeah, again, this rings true from patient stories that I've heard. So because when you have psychotic beliefs, so if you have like paranoid ideas that people are trying to hurt you or follow you, or you hear voices, if it's true psychosis, you don't have insight, so you believe those experiences. You don't know that it's mental illness. And often the way that people gain insight over time is just by getting older and just living with it for a longer period of time. So for example, if they don't know if they're being paranoid, they might rely on somebody that's close to them who they trust to tell them if their behavior's getting a bit uncontrollable, if they need extra treatment, if they need potentially to come into hospital. So again, what he's saying is very true from other stories that I've heard.
It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that bit. I've loved almost everything you said. I'm not sure if that rings true, if an eternal dance. It sounds pretty cool, but I'm not sure if it's true.
And I must not forget, we must not forget that we are human beings.
And that's it, I think. Okay, so I'll just make sure that that's the end of the video, and then I'll tell you my final thoughts. Yeah. I have to say, I'm a convert. I'm a convert. I didn't like this video so much for the first 30 odd seconds because everything that I disliked happened in those first 30 odd seconds, like the depiction that was kind of a little bit sensationalist, a little bit gratuitous. Again, everything you can see now, hospital gown, the pig head, the blood. I suppose in retrospect, thinking about it, it's not a documentary, right? And when you're releasing a music video on YouTube or you're trying to do something to put yourself out there as a musician, you have to be attention grabbing. So actually, I suppose I can give him a pass for this. It's borderline being a bit too on the nose, which could be found by some to be a bit offensive. When I say some, I mean actual people with experience of psychosis. But I think he's pulled himself around because the song was actually so clever. So I didn't like that bit. Didn't like the initial tweeting and the long intro. But as I said, that all happened at the beginning. So everything I disliked about the video was in the first 30 seconds. The rest of it, the more I listened to it, the more and more I got into it. I think it's a very clever concept. I think the lyrics are very good. I think the variety and the cadence was good. Dude can rap, dude can sing. So yeah, I think I am converted. I think he's very talented. As a musician, would I listen to the song again? Absolutely. I think I would go back to listen to the lyrics because there was so much going on. And I think that's the sign of a good tune, right? If you want to listen to it again, would I listen to the rest of his music? I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm into hip hop, but I'm one of these old fuddy-duddies that just raves on about how the golden era of hip hop was in the 1990s. So I don't generally listen to new music, but I think I would actually. I think just because it's so original, I'd want to see what his other music is like, because I don't think it's just going to be blah 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 song about love or something like really played out and really obvious. And I think it's going to be something unique. So yeah, I probably will go and check out this dude's music. All right, that's enough from me. If you want to go and check out other stuff on my channel, I don't usually do this kind of reaction video. It's usually stuff to do with mental illness and offending and the crossover between the two. So go check it out. Until then, have a blessed day and listen to Ren.